agenda to hear the Sea to Sky Skate Club first. That would be preferable.
Okay, if there's no objections from council, we'll do that. So first we'll hear from item 3.2, which is the skate clubs, the Sea to Sky Skate Sea to Sky Club to present to us. And go ahead at the podium there when you're ready. Thank you for coming down.
Kari-Ann MacDonald. I am the head coach of Skate Sea to Sky. I have actually been in this community for over 33 years and been coaching for all of that time here. So first of all, thank you for letting us have a voice tonight. I've got brief notes. A lot of this is what I've experienced in all my 33 years, and obviously we're quite aware of the ongoing ice challenges we're having. The original closure that was expected happened for 3 weeks. We are now currently facing continued disruptions beyond that time frame. We query why some of this wasn't dealt with while the closure was happening. The ongoing closures are now causing us more program cancellations, refunds. Along with that, we get significant income loss. In our club, we have paid coaches. None of us get paid unless we're working, which is starting to financially hurt some of us as we go along. Families are also frustrated. We are finding through this, they are moving to other sports, especially through the fall here, because there was no exact dates. And I understand through the circumstances, it was hard to say, yes, you'll be back on the ice at such and such time. The only kids we could take care of during this time period were our competitive kids. I managed to get 2 weeks, thankfully, to the Whistler Skating Club because there was no any option for us anywhere else. We were turned away left, right, and center. Nobody could take us on to their programs. They were too full. And get the kids that were competing that just happened this last weekend. Pleased to say that our club, 19 skaters, represented the town very well, and everyone had great performances. But through that, we are finding that our registration is significantly dropping off. We're having to offer the refunds. We have made other concessions to allow people to join and maybe make up on an extra day. So example, our Learn to Skate programs is offered on 3 different sessions. And we've given people forms and asked them to fill them out, kept everything private so they can make their own choices. But we are going to be facing that. And on top of now, we have 2 more closures coming up after Thanksgiving. And that was one of the frustrating things is we were closed for 3 weeks. And I know you're dealing with problems, but now we're having to deal with more loss of ice, more training time. When we look at our environmental impact, our skaters are being forced to travel regularly to other communities to maintain training schedules. This, of course, impacted us huge through September, but it also impacts us through the summer. We have no option for ice in this town because we historically and only historically choose to take it out. With the increase of the highway traveling, we risk obviously more carbon emissions. We also risk our lives daily as we go out there because we travel in the summer when we know the Sea to Sky is very busily traveled back and forth. It puts a lot of stress on families, a lot of stress also on the kids because they're traveling there and back while trying to train at the same time. The lack of local access also limits our youth participation, affordability, and community connection. So because of all of this, we do feel that the kids get a little bit disjointed, pushed aside, and there's more separation. That mainly stems from some of the families can't work out the traveling, so they are only stuck with training from here to here. Our sport is now not a seasonal that you start in September and end in April. To be competitive in the sport, we are 12 months a year. Long-term need for our second ice surface. As I said, I've been in this community for 33 years. I have participated on 2 other main ice user committees way back when. It was at least 20 years, if not a little bit more. Time kind of disappears in my head over time. One of the arguments way back when we got pushed away from council, we were told until the town reached 20,000 people, there was no need for a second sheet of ice and wouldn't be considered. Here I stand before you. We are hitting the 30,000 mark. I saw promises back in 2016 when we started doing the new look to a new ice rink. There was hope brought back in. It looked like by 2028, we'd be sitting with another whole new rec center. And here I stand in front of you in 2025 with nothing. The population the program demand has far surpassed the facility's capacity. This needs to be addressed. And I think that we have to be very transparent on both sides. You're well aware of what we're all asking for as we move forward. And seeing transparency from our council needs to be heard out. Expansion and dual use of planning. Funding and planning must begin now for the new rec center, which includes obviously a second sheet of ice. This would allow one rink to remain open while the other is used for maintenance or alternative community programming. Currently, when that rink shuts down, it's not used for very much. We tend to stick grad in there. So the discouraging part I find is I don't get any summer ice. We're forced to travel to host grad that happens for a very short period of time. Supporting our year-round sport development for youth and adults is important. I obviously stand here. I have kids that started our program at the age of 2, and I have a 69-year-old in my program. I am very diverse. We have maximized my adults. They're warriors, and they actually can come out on our ice in training with our top competitive skaters, mainly because they're the only ones I can trust to avoid the adults and not hurt them. This is what our challenges have been. It's how to continually try to work a program with the kids that are showing up and be able to work in the needs of our competitors, the needs of the ones that want to learn to skate, the adults who want to step on the ice. I feel sorry for every adult in this town that has to, wander into the arena late at night to play a hockey game. I'm thankful that youth get a priority because, yes, I do believe youth do need that priority. We all were kids one day and we were given that, right? Some of my requests to council is to prioritize planning and funding for a new rec center. A twin ice facility obviously is my main speaking point. Establish private funding partnership framework so community groups can actively support this initiative. Consider extending the ice season in a short term to help programs recover and maintain competitiveness. Our club and our coaches are doing everything possible to keep youth active and engaged locally. Without consistent access and long-term infrastructure planning, we risk losing more programming, coaches, and families permanently either leaving our program or moving to keep their kids training so they can do what they do well. Squamish deserves a recreation facility that matches its growth and the community spirit. Like I said, it's from the heart. I personally am very discouraged on where we are in 2025. I moved here in 1992, and the arena that we're working in right now is not suitable. The issues that did show up, those issues have been going on for a while. The facility is wearing down. The ice surface has been, actually right now, the ice surface is in really nice condition because we have some heavy duty equipment in there, actually creating a proper environment for ice. My understanding is that's not a permanent situation. So I really wonder where we're going to go with this because we risk losing and we can't lose what we've got. So okay. I really want to know where you guys stand and what we can see in the future.
Perfect. Thank you very much for the presentation. I will say that we're not going to make a decision here tonight on that directly. However, this is the room where these things happen. I'll start before our next. We started our budget process today.
Yes.
Although it's kind of, I think every discussion is a budget discussion, but that aside, we started today. Next week, we will be seeing the capital budget, which is where investments in rec, like facilities such as rec, will come to us. So this is your time. The timing of this is great. We're going to be having the discussion around where that fits in our 10-year financial plan, and the challenge, like what that looks like, and then and contemplate whether that's appropriate or what it would take to accelerate if it doesn't meet expectations. So this is an immediate step we'll be contemplating coming up next week. Am I right? Just like to staff to make sure that that's the next council budget piece is the capital. Yep. So that'll be next week, and that report will be out on Friday, so you can see what we'll be discussing there and what the opportunities and constraints are of that. It'll all be there, and that's the point where we confirm our pacing of this facilities expansion. So I would just ask council if you have any questions for our guests, or if anyone wants to take any other action. I do think we're best to sort of take this advice on and keep this in mind as we engage with the next step of the budget process. But if there's any questions or anything, Councillor Stoner?
Yeah, just a comment. Thanks for being here and sharing your reflections from the heart and over the history of the facilities that we have in town. I think I can speak on behalf of my colleagues that we're very alive to the need in the community, but it still continues to help to hear the personal stories of how the various user groups are going above and beyond, and particular and often volunteer capacities to make it work as we continue to grow with the limited facilities that we have. As Mayor Herford mentioned, we are in the midst of our budget process. Councils up to now have made the difficult decision to prioritize our critical facilities, our fire halls, our public works facility. And then the exciting part is we get to start moving on from that, because those things are built, and the next layer of investments is around the other infrastructure that makes our community whole. It's the community-based infrastructure such as the rec facility and the library and other pieces that we also know our community definitely deserves. So I am definitely looking forward to having those conversations with our staff on how we build out a really strong capital plan, and we can provide a pathway for our community, not just to see how we're going to get that done, but how they can show up and help us participate in the fundraising that's going to be needed to make it a reality. And that's going to be all hands on deck. And we can continue to open up that conversation around what that's going to look like. But will speak for myself that I'm looking forward to being able to have those conversations now that we have some of those critical facilities up, built, and running.
Yeah, the sad part too is for us, and I don't know, I think Hawk is a better way of seeing a little bit of how they shut people out. We, the last couple of years now, when we close a program online, typically fall is never completely full, but our winter program, we end up shutting down our Learn to Skate programs. I can't even put a number on it and tell you how many kids we turn away. I can tell you right now for fall, our wait list in our pre-cans set, which we only allow 5 on the wait list or eat, is full. There's 15 kids we can't even put on in that program.
Okay, I'm going to go around to, go ahead, Councillor Pettingill.
Yeah, appreciate the comments, and I know we've spoken before in the past, and so I definitely understand the desire. I just want to add a bit more context to what my colleague has said. You know, my recollection before I was on council, I did see a public engagement around rec facilities, and one of the criticisms I had of that was that it was sort of a, what do you want? And this is what we heard, but there was no real, at that time, this is what's realistic. And that wasn't part of the discussion. And I think, unfortunately, historically, we built up some expectations that when we did our facilities master plan, which understood there's a huge infrastructure deficit in our community as well as every other community, and some critical things that we needed to address. And so we have spent, I think, during our term, over $100 million on, and there's maybe some strong argument that we've gone too fast on some of that, because I think we're pushing right to the edge of our debt limit. And the reason we did that, though, is to get those critical facilities like fire halls, like public works, out of the way so that we could move on to Brennan Park. And we, with the grants that have been available, Brennan Park is the sort of thing, one of the few things where there tends to be grants. We don't have full control over how those grants are spent. Some of the criticism we hear is, well, why'd you spend the grant on this at Brennan Park? You should have spent it on that at Brennan Park. The reality is the grants that were available really restricted how we could spend it. So while we've been building fire halls and those critical pieces, every piece of grant that we could apply to Brennan Park as quickly as we could, we have done so. And so that's sort of our starting point. And we have prioritized Brennan Park right after the critical facilities, which, as my colleagues said, are pretty much done now. But our debt situation is challenging because we've moved so aggressively on that to get to Brennan Park as quickly as possible. So that's sort of our starting point. And I think the other piece of that, while I understand for hockey and figure skating and so on, there's a definite large gap between where people would like us to be and what the demand is. But then also when we look at arts and our arts and heritage, those are groups that have historically seen far less investment over the years and are also asking for infrastructure. And so this isn't a thing that council's going to decide by itself, but as a community, this is what we have to wrestle with over the coming weeks and years. And I don't quite know all the answers yet. So I appreciate you coming and speaking to us and being part of this discussion. And this is the discussion our community has to have. And unfortunately, I don't know that there's an easy answer. And yeah.
Well, I'll take that up and say I know there's not an easy answer to this, or we would have all found it by now. But we are working towards the same goal, which we share the goal. Councillor Greenlaw, I have you next.
Thanks. Through the chair, first of all, I want to thank you and your team for the excellent programming that you provide. I was completely blown away by your Broadway show last year, and I know my children have enjoyed your programming immensely. It's a fantastic contribution to our community, and I want to acknowledge that and thank you very deeply for that. And I think that there is no lack of desire around this table to expand our recreation facilities. The fact of the matter is the budgetary constraints that we face. Like today, just today, we were contemplating cutting a position of a firefighter, a full-time firefighter, because that's where we are. That's how tight we're running. So as much as we all want to expand Brennan Park, and it is on all of our radars, and that is our long-term plan, specifically an ice rink, as an expansion, frankly, the primary issue is available funds. And I guess because our tax base is already struggling with the increases in taxation that we've experienced and the foreseeable ones in the future. And so I guess that's me putting this on your radar of like, let's get organized with the hockey groups too for fundraising, because you're right, it is an amenity that our community
That private
needs.
funding.
What's that?
And going after private funding
Yes.
as well.
Well, sure. Yeah. If it comes, yes. Absolutely.
Years ago we had it, so.
What's that?
Years ago we had it, and it got turned down years ago. So
What are you referring to?
I'm referring to when an ice arena was to be built.
Sorry, through the chair.
Yes.
What would you be referring to?
I'd just like to, I'll get the answer. We've gone well over our time on this right now. I think we'd be best suited to deal with this topic when we have as much information in front of us as possible. I'll welcome a reply, but I do want to move us through this so we can get on with the other pieces. And we'll come back to this and spend a bunch of very detailed time on it next week. But do you want to comment more on that?
I just was years ago, we had private funding. Then the main reason why it got turned down is the person who was fronting the money to put up the arena was not allowed to put their name on the building.
No. Okay.
Oh, well, I have no comment on that. That is not something that I have ever heard. So
No, but that's what I mean. I'm standing here with 33 years of history in front of you. And yes, I appreciate the time that you've given me. And yes, we've gone way past. My desire is every kid in Canada should have the right to learn to swim for safety and learn to skate because it's a Canadian sport.
That was, does anyone want to add a comment besides that one, which I think was sums it up quite well? I'm going to move receipt of the presentation, and seconded by Councillor Stoner. All in favor? Motion carries. We'll make sure that the report that supports the discussion upcoming gets to you as soon as it's
Thank you. I
available,
would
so you can
appreciate that.
engage with it and understand the context as we enter into that conversation next Tuesday.
Perfect. Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you for the time. Really appreciate it. Okay, so next we're going to go back to, we have a proclamation request for Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Day, and I believe we have someone to speak to it. Oh, hello. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening.
Your patience.
I'm Ali Wars, and I stand in front of you as a 5-foot me. I stand in front of you as a member of the pregnancy and infant loss community, as well as a volunteer for the Sea to Sky Hospice Society, and as a registered nurse in the community as well. Each year, countless families experience the profound loss of a pregnancy or a baby, and this grief is often carried quietly, unseen, and unspoken. And October 15th is recognized internationally as Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Day. And by proclaiming this day in Squamish, our community acknowledges the deep impact of these losses and offers compassion and support to those who have endured them. It helps ensure that the families who have experienced such loss know that they're not alone, that their babies are remembered, their grief is seen, and their love continues to matter. This year, the Sea to Sky Hospice Society, they're hosting the annual Wave of Light ceremony. And I think it's just such a beautiful thing that the hospice has taken on the pregnancy and infant loss community and support group programs. And so on October 15th at St. John the Divine Anglican Church, there will be a global ceremony held at 6:30 p.m. With the lighting of candles for an hour at 7 p.m. And this is a global event that happens at 7 p.m. With the candles embracing the community with a wave of light and love around the world. This event will hopefully become an annual event hosted through the hospice as an opportunity for families and community to gather, to share their grief and their love and honor their children. So on behalf of the families and the community who walk beside them, I just want to thank you for helping to bring awareness, healing, and connection to this really important day. And everyone's welcome to come, whether you have directly been impacted or you're walking alongside the community. It's an open event.
Thank you very much for the presentation and the lovely invitation as well. Councillor, do you have questions for our, we have and this also, the proclamation request is in the agenda package as well. Councillor Stoner,
I was just going to move the proclamation request.
I welcome that. Councillor French seconds. Would you like to speak to it?
Yeah, a huge thanks for being here to raise awareness, to continue to share your story and to lift up the community and stand beside them. And I'm very excited to hear that there's actually a Wave of Light ceremony that is happening in community this year. It's one of the elements that we've proclaimed every year. And there's been varying requests. We tried one year, I think, to see if we could light up the Adventure Center in purple, and we just don't have that technology, unfortunately. So I'm so grateful to hear that there's actually community coming together this year, and thank you for the invitation.
Councillor French.
I'll express my gratitude as well. Thank you very much for being here, and thanks for bringing this difficult conversation to us and allowing us to shine a light on it and give this issue some attention. I'm a father of two, and I just couldn't imagine a loss like this. So I stand with all of those who are grappling with this grief.
Thank you. Other comments? Speaking in support, I think just I'd like to thank you for coming in and presenting to us and expressing clearly how impactful not only the loss is, but the community showing up and making whether that's in the form of fulfilling a proclamation request, which we're on the cusp of doing, or attending events, and also and so on. So I'm just thank you so much, and thank you for taking on this work. I think it's in obviously in has a huge emotional I want to say component to it, I guess, and our community is just so much stronger with folks like yourself taking up these important causes. So thank you so much. With that, I'll call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously, as it should. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Okay, so our next piece is unscheduled public attendance. So if anyone has a matter that is emergent and urgent in nature that needs to be dealt with prior to our next regular meeting, this would be your opportunity to bring that forward for consideration. Seeing none, we'll move on to development permit. So this is under public hearings, development permit 646 for 1126 Resolution Way. And while we're getting set up for that, I have a bit of a script here. The proponent and members of the public will be given the opportunity to be heard with respect to council's consideration of development variance permit number 646. So first we were going to have a presentation from our staff, and then I will have a more detailed description of what happens for the public facing portion of this. I think I bought just enough time to get the presentation up.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Philip Gibbons with Planning Department, and as mentioned, I'll be presenting on the consideration of development permit 646 with variances for 1126 Resolution Way. So the subject site, Resolution Way, is an irregular shaped lot at the west side of the business park, and it currently operates as with a sawmill and a wholesale lumber yard, and with accessory retail. It contains 2 existing principal buildings. There's a covered sawmill and 3 smaller accessory buildings and storage structures. And then on the slide here, you can see the surrounding land uses, vacant future industrial to the north and the east, industrial uses to the south, and then the rail to the west. And the land use designation is intensive industrial, and it's currently zoned I11 for business park industrial. Applicable development permit areas, DPA 2, 9, and 11. And this development permit carries DPA 9, form and character guidelines for industrial employment. A flood covenant will be required under development permit area 2, and wildfire for DPA 11. So this application proposes a new accessory building to house a sawmill on the southeast lot line. This will replace a smaller existing structure for sawmill required to support the expansion of the existing business on site. The building will be metal clad and have the same primarily white color scheme as existing buildings. So the form and character of this development is reviewed against the development permit area 9 guidelines, and staff review is provided as appendix to the council report, and staff consider the proposal to be supportable as the guidelines are met. The following variances on this slide and the next will be required to house the largest sawmill as The machinery exceeds the permitted height for an accessory building and needs to be located close to the lot line to preserve the driveway width and access to storage areas. So here you can see the building height from 4.58 meters to 7.62. And additionally, an increase in the I-11 zone for the number of permitted accessory buildings from 2 to 3. And finally, the setback for the accessory building from 1.2 meters to 0 meters along the lot line. This variance is, as proposed, aligns with OCP policy, supporting industrial uses within the business park. And due to the proposed building being located adjacent to a laneway and a blank wall at the rear of the neighboring property, impacts are expected to be minimal as a result of the variance. And additionally, a smaller sawmill has been operating at that same location with no recorded complaints. Notification for this application, a sign was placed on site, listed on the development review on the district website, and notifications sent to properties within 100 meters, and no submissions have been received to date. And the recommendation that council authorize the issuance of development permit 646 as presented, and including the variance for the setback reduction for an accessory building, the variance to the building height, and for the number of accessory buildings, and that the mayor and corporate officer authorized to execute the development permit. Thank you.
Thank you. So before we go to the public, which I have a bit of a script for, council, this is your opportunity to ask any questions about what we've heard or what's in the agenda package. Go ahead, Councillor Hamilton.
Thanks very much. I've got a question about the setback. I know that this request is for this building and the 0 lot line setback. Would this change to the zoning setback? Would that apply to any future buildings that the property owner may want to build?
Through the chair, no, it would be for this building only.
Thanks very much.
And just on that point, so I understand the process is because this isn't a rezoning, this is a development variance permit, that permit would just facilitate this specific project, and then the zone would still stay, then the limits within that for any future.
Correct. And additionally, there'll be a drawing package attached to that permit.
Okay. Councillor Pettingill?
Yeah, the laneway, is that a district right away, or is there some agreement somewhere that requires that laneway to exist there?
Through the chair, that's on the adjacent property. It's not a laneway as such, like it's in a dedicated roadway.
Okay, and so there's an existing structure to the 0 lot line, is that 0 meter lot line, is that correct?
Through the chair, the building on the adjacent lot is set back the width of that laneway.
Okay, and then when it comes to especially industrial buildings, are there fire separation requirements or expectations, or like, are we sort of, by allowing this here, are we placing constraints on the neighboring lot? Now they would not be able, like, would they also be able to build to the 0 lot line, or do sort of regulations around industrial development, would that preclude them doing the same?
Through the chair, this comes down to building code requirements, and there's limiting distances for buildings. So in designing this as it's located close to the lot line, the code consultant will have to consider this in the type of construction materials that the building's made out of.
So at the end of the day, if the other property owner came forward, there is within the building code a way where both properties could have a building at 0 lot line, or is it that the code is such that if one goes at the 0 lot line, the other one is just going to have to be set back no matter what if they decided to redevelop the other site?
To the chair, if you're building close to the lot line, you have to assume that a building is on the adjacent property would be built to the existing setback, to the permitted setback.
Okay, other questions, council? We'll get another chance. I'm just going to go to my script for the public piece of this. So the proposed variances to the District of Squamish zoning bylaw, number 2200/2017, are outlined in the development variance permit included as part of the agenda and available on the District of Squamish's website. Shortly, we'll open the floor to members of the public to provide comment on this. And just a reminder that you may only speak to the proposed variances. So the height, the setback, and the number of buildings on the property. We can pull up the specific wording if we need to be reminded of that. So we're trying to make this a safe space for everyone to voice their opinion without interference from others. Therefore, I ask that members of the public maintain order and quiet during the process. Please do not applaud or interrupt any speech or actions of members of council or any other person addressing council. All speakers will be given a maximum of 3 minutes to address council. For all speakers, please start your remarks by clearly stating your name and neighborhood. So first, we save space for Squamish Nation officials, if there are any that would like to address us today, and I didn't see any on the way in, and no one are identifying themselves now. So I will move on to the applicant. If the applicant or their representative wishes to comment, now would be an opportunity to do that. Moving on, I'll go to the public. I'll call on any member of the public that wishes to speak. Each speaker will have up to 3 minutes to address council. We also have opportunity to participate remotely. So instructions to do so should be appearing on your screen. First, I'll go in the room and see if anyone would like to address council on this matter. Okay, we have one. So approach the podium. You have 3 minutes to address council.
I'll be very brief. Spencer Fitchin from Squamish. All in favor of increasing the industrial job base. I think that's wonderful. My only concern with this would be whether or not the impacts to adjoining properties were considered when looking at putting a sawmill here and expanding its footprint in this location. In around 2012, we had Burns Lake sawmill explode, killing 2 workers. We had Prince George sawmill also explode. Wood dust is an incredibly flammable and explosive material. So if we start tightening up lot lines, are we actually introducing a risk to adjoining properties that had not initially been considered? And that's my only comment. And I'm sure district staff has done a very thorough job. So that is my only comment. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Is there anyone else that wishes to provide comments on this matter? I'm not seeing any hands in the room. I'll just look to our moderator to see if anyone's participating online that has their virtual hand up. Okay, I'm receiving a negative there. Anyone else wish to speak to this matter? Seeing none, we'll close the public input portion of this. I'll go to council to see if there's any further questions before we consider the matter. I'm not seeing any hands for questions. Go ahead.
Yeah, just a quick follow-up from Mr. Fincham's comment. Did I understand correctly from the staff presentation, neighbors were notified of this 0 lot line, of the development permit and the potential change to their setback, and we received no comment? Did I understand that?
Through the chair is correct. We have received no comments on this application.
Thanks.
Councillor Stoner?
Thank you, through the chair. I'm just wondering if staff can speak about the safety considerations about the setback reduction.
Through the chair, the planning considerations and the setbacks are not put in place for safety impacts. Those are dealt with through building code considerations for the use types specifically.
Thank you for that clarification. And also, can I clarify, is this something that Squamish Fire Rescue would review the permit for at any point, just in terms of access? I suspect that the current laneway is not technically a road right away, and so the fire truck probably isn't going down there anyways. But just from an access perspective for fire trucks, does this permit get reviewed by Squamish Fire Rescue?
Yeah. Through the chair, through the building permit process, a referral will be sent to Squamish Fire Rescue. As an addition, there's a fire hydrant right out the front of this building.
Okay, any other questions, council? Are you moving the recommendation?
Yeah, we'll move the staff recommendation.
Councillor French seconds. Would you like to speak to it?
Thanks for bringing this to us. I think this is a quite a sensible development permit application. An addition in height is quite simple and quite well justified. The additional accessory building, again, quite well justified. And I had some reservations about the zero setback, but those have been resolved by understanding that this is the only, that this zero setback requirement is only being applied to this building, not to all buildings, so it won't impact other neighbors, and all of the impacted neighbors will had the opportunity to comment. So thanks very much.
Thank you. I've got Councillor French and Anderson.
Thanks, Mayor Herford. And this development application is pretty exciting for me. Wood processing facility that wants to expand, I think, is great news for our local economy. And what's being sought in this application, I find to be completely reasonable within the industrial setting that it's proposed for. The height's consistent with neighboring buildings. The zero setback, I think, works because of the bare wall that's on the next property. And I agree, wood dust can be deadly, and everybody should be concerned about wood dust and the collection of it. WorkSafe has done an excellent job of putting policies in place to make sure that operations like this are dealing with that hazard appropriately. And this particular company has an excellent track record of operating safely from the time that it originally opened. And I'm hoping and maybe expecting that with this expansion, Van Urban has the potential to expand its workforce. And these are jobs that are family supporting. So I fully support the staff recommendation here.
Thank you. Councillor Anderson.
Thank you. I'll also be speaking in support of the staff recommendation. The report to council refers to alignment with our council strategic plan, specifically item 4.2 under prepared for the future, increase economic activity in the core enabling emerging economic sectors. Now, Van Urban Timber to me is a great illustration of what enabling means, what we mean by that. Just last week, I attended a meeting of Twig Squamish, the Wood Innovation Group Squamish, which has about 20 to 30 active participants. They are individual wood artisans and small businesses in diverse wood product and construction enterprises. Van Urban Timber is a key and important supplier to virtually all of them. They are an anchor enterprise. And so in that context, that's a well-chosen reference on the part of staff. This new SAW system will allow this company to deliver more to the local value-added scene and do it from here. With respect to the urban or the neighborhood interface, something I've noted over the years that I've been acquainted with this company is its proactive attention to neighborhood interface on all four sides of their property. And I could recount the initiatives they've taken to work with new development proposals and make sure that they're working in harmony and indeed to help them out. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Penningham.
Yeah, thanks. While I am generally supportive. I am not going to find my way to supporting this ask. The lack of a setback is a bit of a concern, although it is mostly mitigated by the fact that we didn't hear from the neighboring property about a concern. So that by itself wouldn't be a deal breaker for me. And I've expressed it before. I don't have a clear enough understanding. I have enough concerns about the risk from the Fortis wood fiber project pipeline that I'm just not comfortable, and I've been fairly consistent, approving greater density of any sort in this area until we understand and have clarity on what the actual risk from that is. So for that reason, I will not be supporting.
Councillor Stoner?
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair, I think most of my council colleagues have said what I was going to say, but I will say it is very encouraging to see a enterprise of this sort willing to invest and grow, especially when all the headlines talk about the crisis that our forestry sector is in. So just want to acknowledge that. I think the variances that are presented before us are sound and reasonable in order to support the expansion of the business as presented. So with regards to the 0 meter lot line, I was also had some considerations there, but through the staff response in terms of continued considerations of safety, both through the BC Building Code, future review by Squamish Fire, and the fact that there were no comments received through the referral process provides me enough certainty that this is a good way to go forward on this particular site. The increase in height, I think, is reasonable in this industrial zone, and the increase in the accessory building is also very justifiable. So happy to support the request that's presented.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Greenlaw.
Thanks. Happy to support this motion and excited to see some reinvigoration of the lumber industry in town. And I was secretly hoping that Councillor Anderson would take us down a trip down memory lane on this one. But happy to support. I think it's I think it's critical that we reinvigorate our local economy as much as we possibly can, and part of that is having closer access to our resources. So I think this is a really important step for Squamish to take. I think it's going to be a really great project. Thanks.
Thank you. Speaking in support of the motion, I think, as others have stated, to see that a local company has found a way to operate in the current and ever-changing and it feels ever worsening conditions of the forestry industry is remarkable, and I think it shows that good people doing good work can make a go of it in less than ideal conditions and can thrive, and I think that's what we're seeing here. The variances, if I look at the variances just in isolation, never mind what they accomplish in the forest industry context, I find them quite reasonable given the area. And as far as interface concerns with the community, I think that this operation has shown their ability to work with the community and to be an integral part of the community. So I quite like how so I have a high confidence that this is going to work. So I'm happy to support, and it's great to see this success story here in Squamish, and to find a small way we can support through reasonable variances like this seems wholly appropriate. I'm happy to take that step. So with that, I'll call the question. All in favor and opposed? Councillor Pettingill opposes. Motion carries. Thank you very much. So the next order of business is our consent agenda. If anyone would like to pull anything from the consent agenda, this would be your opportunity to do so. Councillor Pettingill?
6D, 2 and 3, and that's the Stantec tote review and the Q2 financials. Okay, we'll deal with those at the appropriate time. Is there anyone who wants to pull anything else? It's nearly the entirety of the consent agenda, given the size of it today, but okay, seeing none, I'll move the remainder of the consent agenda. Second by Councillor Stoner. All in favor? Motion carries. So we'll come back to those at the appropriate time, Councillor Pettingill. Next, we have a discussion on the permissive tax exemptions, consideration of first, second, and third readings.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Kari-Ann and I'm the Director of Financial Operations at the district. To assist with addressing me, my pronouns are she and her. I'm here today to present on permissive tax exemptions, which I'll also refer to as PTEs. The goal of the presentation today is for Council to give first 3 readings to permissive tax exemption bylaws. For Council and the community's background, I'll first review the legislation. A council may, by bylaw, exempt land and/or improvements from property taxes, which are referred to as permissive tax exemptions. A permissive tax exemption will exempt all property taxes, municipal and other, and redistribute the taxes to other taxpayers. A permissive tax exemption may be granted for up to a 10-year period, and Council must give public notice of the proposed PTE bylaws prior to adoption. A permissive tax exemption differs from general statutory tax exemptions granted under Section 220 of the Community Charter in that the decision to grant a permissive tax exemption is at Council's discretion. The PTE program at the district has an annual intake, and the application deadline was July 31st, 2025. It is staff's role to assess the applications against legislation and the district's PTE policy and bring eligible applications forward for Council consideration. 7 applications are eligible for Council to consider granting PTEs to. Prior to moving into the next slide, I'd like to note that religious organizations receive a statutory exemption. The statutory exemption is for the religious building footprint and the building. The property surrounding the religious building is what's eligible for a PTE. At the September 9th, 2025 Committee of the Whole, staff provided a fulsome overview of each eligible PTE application. Council decided or directed staff to bring forward the PTE bylaws listed on this slide to today's Council meeting for consideration of first 3 readings. I'll pause here and ask the Chair if Council would like to proceed with consideration of first 3 readings of these bylaws prior to moving into the Squamish Valley Golf Club portion of the presentation.
Thank you for that. Council, questions about these? I know we've had some discussion of this matter previously, so we and I would suggest that if Council's comfortable with these, that we provide the readings or consideration of the readings now, so that our colleague who's declared conflict on the last part of this we can just sort of run the meeting a bit smoother that way. So any questions on this, or are we ready to, do we need to do these individually? We can do them all together. Okay, are you moving that? So moved by Councillor French. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Stoner. Would you like to speak to it? Or any comments? No. Any other comments on these? Seeing none, I'll resist the temptation to speak. I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. So our next portion of the presentation is regarding the Squamish Valley Golf and Country Club.
Mayor Herford, I wish to declare a conflict on this particular item as I'm a member of the affiliated curling club, and the fate of the application for a permissive tax exemption can have impact on club fees. Thank you. I'll excuse myself next door.
Thank you for that. We will come and find you. Don't go too far. Okay.
Further to Council's direction at the September 9th, 2025 Council meeting, staff are presenting 3 options for the Squamish Valley Golf Club permissive tax exemption. As background, in 2009, the district entered into a lease agreement with the Squamish Valley Golf Club. The lease agreement required the golf club to pay $45,000 in annual lease payments on the premise that the golf club would receive annual tax exemptions for its operations. In 2018, the district and the golf club transitioned to a new arrangement whereby the golf club's annual lease payments would be reduced to $1, but it would be required to pay a portion of the property taxes attributable to its operations. At the time, the golf club requested the property taxes be established each year by council in a manner that would result in a payment of approximately $45,000, subject to council's annual approval of the PTE. I'll now review the three options for council's consideration. The first option is to allocate the PTE and property taxes payable based on the BC assessment classifications. The golf club's roll numbers, there's two, have an allocation to Class 6, which is for business and other, and Class 8, which is for the recreational property and nonprofit organization. Based on the 2025 BC assessment assessed property values, this equates to 53% for Class 6 and 47% for Class 8. Council could choose to establish the PTE for Class 8 taxes, and the Class 6 taxes would remain payable. If council endorses this option, the 2026 PTE is estimated to be $41,400, and the taxes payable are estimated to be $46,100. The second option is to allocate the PTE and property taxes payable based on increasing by BC CPI starting in 2009. If council moves forward with this option, the PTE is estimated to be $22,600 and the taxes payable are estimated to be $64,900. Lastly, the third option is to reduce property taxes to approximately $45,000 as agreed to in 2018. If council endorses this option, the PTE is estimated to be $42,500 and the property taxes payable are estimated to be $45,000. Staff recommend the PTE is granted based on the 2018 agreement, which is option number 3. This concludes the presentation. I'll now turn it back to the chair.
Thank you. Council, questions about what we've heard? Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Hamilton.
Thanks very much. Seeking clarity on the status of all of the businesses or all of the operations on the property that we're talking about. Are they the Squamish Valley Golf Club and all businesses operating on the property for which we're talking about a permissive tax exemption? Are there any for-profit entities running there, or are they all not-for-profit entities?
Through the chair, it's not-for-profit entity. It's a not-for-profit entity.
So I'm a little bit confused about, and it's probably just me not knowing, why is some of the property in Class 6, which is business, from BC Assessment's perspective?
Through the chair, I wouldn't be able to comment on how BC Assessment derives their valuation, but it is BC Assessment that is allocating between Class 6 and Class 8.
And it's that independent body that makes that decision, not something that happens in this building or this room.
Through the chair, you're correct.
And BC Assessment also makes the determination of the 53 and the 47% specified in the staff report, correct?
Through the chair, yes, that's correct.
I can tell you're still mulling it over. I'll just go to the rest of the room and see if there's any other questions. And Council, any other questions on this, whether it's to staff or to start the conversation with your colleagues? Councillor Stoner, I feel like you're reaching for the microphone. Is that, I'm going to count that as a hand. Floor is yours if you need it. You're good. Go ahead. Councillor Pettingill.
So just for clarity on this whole entity is not for profit, what that means is there is some revenue generation, which is not uncommon for not-for-profits. It's just that any surplus revenue, it goes back into the not-for-profit. There's no owners or shareholders that are taking money out as part of that revenue. It strictly stays within the not-for-profit, and that's sort of what not-for-profit means. Is that?
Through the chair, yes, you're correct.
Okay, are we looking for a motion here, Councillor French? Staff recommendation is the status quo piece. Okay, are you seconding that, Councillor Stoner? Councillor Stoner seconds. Would you like to speak to it?
Yeah, the staff put a fair amount of work into this again this year. I think like this is the second year in a row where we've asked some tough questions because I think we all realize that the Squamish Valley Golf and Country Club's got a pretty sweet deal over there. And I think we're all looking to figure out how we can get the golf club at least into a CPI situation where their property tax is increasing by the rate of inflation each year. We're not quite there yet. And I think that in a few years, when we renegotiate with the club, we'll probably be in a good position to get some kind of annual CPI increase into this agreement. For the time being, this is where we're at. And I think that what's in front of us with the staff recommendation is the best option.
Thank you. Other comments here? Councillor Stoner?
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair, I want to thank staff for doing the additional due diligence. This is one that I directed, and I think I directed 2 years ago as well, Councillor French. And I keep on getting more information, more enlightenment every time it comes back and we ask some more questions. This is a little bit of an unusual, I think, agreement that we have, and that most of our leases are tied to at least some level of increase year over year. And that doesn't seem to be the case here. One of the things that I have relearned, at least if I wasn't already aware of it, was one of the concerns that I actually had when I brought this forward last time and requested staff to do some additional due diligence was I was under the impression that there was some for-profit commercial happening on site. And so my concern was that we were actually providing assistance to business. And I'm rest assured here that that is not the case, that the full operation on site is not for profit. And I agree with my council colleague that further renegotiation of lease will come in due time when it comes up in 2029. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Hamilton?
Yep, thanks very much. Like Councillor Stoner, every year I seem to have a slightly deeper understanding of this thing that is the Squamish Valley Golf Club. Unlike my Councillor French, my interest here is to have fair taxation, whether that's more or less. I imagine that's the same for you, Councillor French, but whether it's more taxation and increased by CPI or not, what I'm looking for is fair and simple taxation. I'm a little bit confused, and I recognize that it's not staff's place to understand where BC assessment, how they put things into class 6 and class 8. But to me, if this is a not-for-profit organization, maybe it should all just be taxed as recreation not-for-profit class 8. Maybe that's the simplest way forward. Not for this year, not going to propose it. We'll go with the status quo for now. So thanks.
Thank you. I'm speaking in support of the motion. I think this is a interesting, as others have commented, an interesting structure for the arrangement, and this tool is clumsy to achieve this purpose. But this is where we are, and so I'll be in support. I will not be here around renegotiation of this, but I think council of that day would be well served to, with the advice of staff, to find a path that achieves the shared goals of the organizations using hopefully a simpler mechanism than this. I would see it shaking out like this again. I'd be really surprised if this is where this landed upon a reconsideration, but that's not what we're here to do today. It's so I'll be supporting this step. With that, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Want to grab Councillor Anderson? Okay, so we're on to adoptions, and we have, as is our practice, we do not have a presentation. And I just want to note that we're exactly on the time it says on our agenda, so let's move quickly and stay that way. It's the only time it's happened today, I think. So I will move the adoption of the zoning for 1006 and 1018 McNamee Place. Second by Councillor French. All in favor? You want to talk on adoption? Okay, go ahead.
Well, I think that this one warrants because some substantial work has been done to get this to adoption. And I do want to point out that one of the conditions of this rezoning includes entering into a housing agreement to secure all 15 units in the building 2 as market rental in perpetuity. And as well, there is a relocation strategy for the folks who are currently renting on this site. It's revolutionary, it's new, and I think it's worth shining a light on as we bring this to adoption.
Thank you very much for that. Any other comments on this, Councillor Pettingill?
Yeah, and I do want to acknowledge the work that's been done. I think there was some concern about tenant relocation and you know, the redevelopment of this site, and so I do appreciate the work that's been done there. Like the earlier variants, I am still concerned about the proximity and risk from the Fortis wood fiber pipeline, and so I just don't have that confidence, as I've said before, that in putting more density and development in this area until I have that clarity.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? And opposed? Councillor Pettingill opposes. Motion carries. Oh, sorry, Councillor Greenlaw opposes as well. Motion carries. So next is the District of Squamish Fire Services bylaw relating to fireworks. I would like to move that one. And seconded by Councillor Hamilton. Oh, sorry, can we do all three of those things together? So we're doing all three together, which is the notice enforcement and the municipal ticket information. So it's one package of all those, which is what I meant to move and what you meant to second. So with that, I'll call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Councillor, are we okay on I just wanted to check and see if we needed a break at all, or if we're okay to continue. It's been a long day. We're okay to keep going? Okay. Councillor Hamilton.
Yeah, thanks. I'd like to declare a conflict of interest on the next item as an employee of Capilano University.
Okay, so enjoy your break. We'll do, no, thank you for that. Don't go too far. We'll come and find you when we've concluded the topic. So we have staff just getting set up for the presentation, and the topic is the consideration of temporary use permit 81 for 3021 University Boulevard. And I'll turn the floor over to staff when they're ready to run us through the presentation.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Brian Daly, planner with Community Planning. I'm here tonight to present a temporary use permit application for one of the student residence buildings on the Capilano University campus. At the October 9th, 2018 Special Council meeting, Housing Agreement Bylaw number 2638/2018 was adopted, which required units at 2 of the student residence buildings to be used as student and staff housing from September 1st to May 1st of each year. At the October 3rd, 2023 regular council meeting, adopted zoning bylaw amendment number 3002/2023, which added the tourist accommodation condition of use in the UC1 zone. This condition of use was intended to clarify that the use is only permitted to occur between May 2nd and August 31st of each year in accordance with the housing agreement. CapU has applied for 2 temporary use permits, TUP 81 and TUP 82, to allow for year-round tourist accommodation use in 2 of the 4 student residence buildings on their campus, located at 3021 and 3041 University Boulevard. Tourist accommodation use is defined as the use of a building containing 1 or more accommodation units used for temporary accommodation by transient guests and includes, but is not limited to, hostel, hotel, and motel. CapU intends to offer the tourist accommodation rentals to support on-campus academic conferences, local partner events, and small group events. Each student residence building contains 102 units with 89 studio units, 5 accessible studio units, 6 double bed units, 1 2-bedroom, and 1 3-bedroom unit in each building. As typical in dormitory style accommodation, the units do not contain cooking facilities. Each floor has a shared lounge area that includes a kitchen. The parking requirement in the zoning bylaw for tourist accommodation use is 1 space per room. Therefore, 204 spaces are required. The campus area contains 235 parking spaces, including 18 spaces immediately adjacent to the student residence buildings, 76 spaces in the parking lot across University Boulevard adjacent to the soccer field, 38 spaces in the parking lot adjacent to the recreation complex building, which is accessed off Mamquam Road, 30 spaces in a parking lot off the lane providing access to the campus buildings, 5 spaces along this lane, and 68 spaces in the parkade beneath the campus buildings, meeting the zoning bylaw requirement. CAPU actively patrols the parking lots, which increases the likelihood of available parking spaces for tourist accommodation use. CAPU has requested that TUP 81 commence in October of 2025 and TUP 82 commence in September of 2026 due to deferred maintenance and building readiness. TUP 82 will be brought forward to a future council meeting for consideration closer to the requested September 2026 date. Both permits request a 3-year term. There has been no new purpose-built fixed-roof tourist accommodation built since 2010. As such, there is an opportunity for CAPU to provide additional supply for this use for a 3-year term. Staff believe allowing year-round tourist accommodation use on a temporary basis through TUP 81 is an appropriate use for the underutilized student residence buildings while CAPU works to build up their on-campus student population, and this use is no longer required year-round. A development sign was installed on the property and the project was posted to the online development showcase to inform the community. Notice of the TUP was advertised in the September 25th and October 2nd editions of the Squamish Chief, and notice was delivered to properties within 100 meters. No comments were received. Staff recommend that council approve TUP number 81 as presented. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to take questions.
Council, questions? Councilor Pettingill.
Yeah, thanks. It's not necessarily my reading of tourist accommodation, but my understanding is that the staff interpretation of that term now allows for workforce accommodation as part of tourist accommodation. And I think that's not a use I'm comfortable with here for a number of reasons, parking and a few others. And so can staff suggest some changes or language changes that actually sort of constrain this to tourism accommodation and not workforce accommodation and other such uses?
Through the mayor, staff would not recommend making changes of that nature because that would be regulating the end user, which would be very challenging to monitor and enforce from a staff perspective. It would be very difficult to ensure that, or would require, it would be very administratively challenging and very difficult to enforce to try and regulate the end user of the tourist accommodations.
So can I ask then why we're calling it tourist accommodation, not just accommodation or short-term accommodation or something? If
through the mayor, that is tourist accommodation is a defined use in the zoning bylaw. And that is the use that was requested.
But my understanding is we do have a complaints-based process. So if there was misuse, workforce uses, and I think, careful. My understanding is there's been instances where there has been use of housing contrary to our zoning bylaw, and we are able to investigate and enforce and have done so in the past. So why would this be any different?
Through the mayor, that would require staff working with CAPU to determine who they are renting all of these units to on a short-term basis, and then like practically trying to prove that someone is a tourist and not a worker in town would also be quite challenging to do.
I'll let you ponder that and we'll go around. Go ahead, Councillor Snorer.
Yeah, thank you through the chair. Can you just remind me how we differentiate between tourist accommodation and short-term rental accommodation?
Through the mayor, short-term rental accommodation is an accessory use to a residential dwelling unit. Tourist accommodation is a purpose-built, essentially short-term rental that is not in a dwelling unit.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you for clarifying. My other question is, all other types of tourist accommodation and short-term rental accommodation pay into MRDT taxing. And so I'm just curious if that has been part of the consideration as we enable an additional use, how we ensure fair and equitable taxation for especially a 3-year length TUP.
Through the mayor, yes, this is subject to MRDT, and Capilano already pays the MRDT when this use is allowed in the summer months, so they are aware and already pay into the MRDT.
Yep, go ahead.
And then I am curious how we would define transient guests. Is that something that, is it a matter of how many days or nights they stay there?
Thank you. Through the mayor, the zoning bylaw does not explicitly define transient, so it would be a common understanding definition. So we would first go to what the common understanding is. So somebody who was not there, for example, residing under a tenancy agreement, and who was visiting the area, would be legally how that would work out.
This definition that we're discussing here is the same as our other fixed roof accommodation in the community that's currently being used for large scale workforce accommodation. Is that correct?
Yes, if you're talking about some of the hotels in town. In discussions with the proponent, their intention is to use this housing, or this, we'll call it housing, this short-term rental accommodation to support their on-campus conferences when they host them, and small group rental events. They did not indicate an intention to use it as workforce housing, and staff are comfortable proceeding under that assumption without trying to add additional limitations on it.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to flesh out if we were talking about a slightly different, very definition from what we're seeing, or if everything's under this one. So I appreciate that context. Go ahead.
So I understand the proponent has communicated their intent. Is there an issue with us communicating our intent likewise and having a tighter definition, and we can cross the bridge if we need to figure out enforcement, whether or not that's actual practical, but be very clear with our intent and expectation, our language? Like, it also sounds like with the transient piece, which we do have and have put in there, that would have the same level of challenge in terms of enforcement. So is there not something we could put that clearly specifies our intent and that this preclude workforce housing and deal with the enforcement piece down the road if we needed to?
Through the mayor, I suppose a condition could be added to the TUP, but I see my director, Jonas, is on the screen. I was wondering if he might have anything he would like to add.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. Jonas Vilniškis, Senior Director of Community Development. This is a discretional permit application for council to decide, and if council wishes to regulate this further, council could add a condition around that. As Mr. Daly suggested, it will be a difficult condition to enforce for staff.
Any further questions? Go ahead.
And so I know sometimes bylaws and stuff, the specific language is tricky. If I was to ask staff for, and I actually did send it last night, for language that would accomplish this, is that something we need to take a 5-minute break of what the language would need to be? Because I would like to move that some language be added.
Through the chair, I suppose a 5-minute break would be helpful if that's what council decides to move forward with, and then we could propose a condition.
Councillor French.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Herford. I'm just contemplating potential unintended consequences of such a move. So if Vancouver Coastal Health went to Capilano University and said, we have 5 nurses and 3 additional healthcare workers who have nowhere to live. And we'd like to accommodate them at Cap University for a short-term rental period of time. Or Carbon Engineering or Quantum had a similar situation where they're bringing in some experts for a period of time. Would we then potentially be blocking those housing opportunities for those for those employers?
Through the mayor, yes. If it's if the condition sought is to limit the use of it for workforce housing, then unless you narrow the scope of what workforce housing is, then that would be an unanticipated consequence.
So I think I understand the concerns that I've heard in the room are related to the major projects that we have happening here now or others. We have a 3-year term of the TUP. So I'm fine to have, I think it's worthwhile to have some language to at least proposed so that we can debate it actually, not just purely conceptually, because maybe there is a way for this nuance. But I just want to make sure that we articulate the concern. If you're saying it's not just the major projects, like, let's flush that out and see if we can come with something that can be supported by council. So I'll take staff up on the invitation for some time, but if you can articulate your challenge. Oh, and I have, sorry, were you pointing to Mr. Valniscus again?
Yes, if I could.
No.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Valniscus.
Thank you. So we did consider this request as it came in before the council meeting, and the language that could be added to the temporary use permit is tourist accommodation use for education, including educational or tourism related purposes. And that sort of eliminates the theoretical possibility of workforce housing occurring.
Okay. The unintended consequence piece still stands, but that's some proposed language. I think a path forward for us right now would be to, if you wanted to move that with that language, we could have a debate about it. I think that's the path forward. Go ahead. Are you moving that?
Yep, and I'll speak to it, obviously.
So moving the issuance of the TUP with the additional language that we just heard. Yeah, is that, Mr. Valniscus, there's just a request for a repeating of the language, or if it does exist somewhere that can be sent to us or put on the screen, it'd be great. I would take all of the options. So if you want to maybe just start by restating it.
I could repeat it in case it's a bit easier to hear in council chambers. Sorry, where is it? Oh, so the condition that would be added would be tourist accommodation use for educational or tourism related purposes.
Okay, and that's the motion that, so that's an additional, is that a refinement of the definition or an additional bullet point?
It's an additional refinement of the definition.
Okay. And just to be clear, if we wanted to revert, it would just be, we could amend it to revert to the original language of the permit as presented, if we wanted to do that. I'm just trying to understand our paths. So Councillor Pettingill has moved that with the new refined language. Is there a seconder for that? Seeing no seconder, I will look for, I will move the staff recommendation, second by Councillor French. I think this is actually really good news. It's really hard to get fixed roof accommodation, tourist accommodation built, and here we have some underutilized facilities, and I think this will be a great addition. The concerns around workforce accommodation, I have. I think I share with my colleagues, but the scenarios around unintended consequences of these things being added to temporary use permits, or actually any of our actions here are really important to me. I know that employers have used facilities in this area for summer workforce accommodation throughout over the years and various different scenarios. So I would put it to the folks at CAPU to ensure the safety and operation of these facilities in relation to the general public and of course their students on site as well. So I'm comfortable with moving this forward, and I'm looking forward to seeing what this additional capacity broadly for the community and specifically for this organization, what it'll bring to the community. I think this is actually quite an exciting piece. I'm going to go to Councillor French the seconder. I'll come to you, Councillor Pringle.
Thanks, Mayor Herford. I see this as an entrepreneurial piece of brilliance on the part of Capilano University, filling a need and a void. They are an ethical operator, institution within our community, and I have full faith that they have the community's best interest at heart and will operate in such a way.
Thank you. Councillor Pettingill.
Yeah, I'm not going to support this. I think if this is a use we want to support, I think we should have a discussion. We should be explicit that this is what we are wanting to support, and that should have come in the report. I think, there's the Chikai, there's Woodfibre, there's Fortis, there's a number of projects, and we have other projects upcoming. We have heard from our tourism sector over and over again that these projects are really cutting into tourism. And so I think if we are going to allow more tourism use, we should make sure it's actually reserved for tourism. And if we want a small piece to be possibly available for workforce, then let's be explicit about that and clear about it. I think what we have seen over and over again, and it's not something we can deal with in 8 years, because we've got a 3-year window right now where this is already an issue. And so right now is the time where we need to deal with this. I think if we just allow if we end up with workforce housing there, it's not helping the tourism challenge. Maybe it's good for CAPU, risk issues aside. But I think if we have something different in mind than tourism, then let's be explicit about that and have a conversation about that. And so just sort of saying tourism, but well, we can't enforce it and who knows when it'll be there. I'm just not comfortable with that. I don't think it achieves what we're trying to do for the tourism sector, for CAPU and the community at this point.
Councillor Anderson.
Speaking in favor of the staff recommendation, I happen to be peripherally involved in an organization, or the organization of a provincial conference to be hosted in Squamish in May. And our experience is real difficulty in finding a suite of venues, including accommodation, to make Squamish work and be attractive for more convention type events. And here, when we add accommodation to excellent facilities right adjacent, this really is a door opener for bringing more such events, including the one next May, to be able to utilize Squamish and what it has to offer much better. Thank you. I wish Capilano best of luck.
Thank you. Councillor Greenlove and Stoner.
Yeah, thanks through the chair. I would really like to support this temporary use permit, but I share the same concerns as Councillor Pettingill. I would like reassurances that this will be reserved, like specifically for tourism and conference center activities, and have a way of ensuring that it's not being used for other purposes, because those are the real needs of our community right now that we need to address through this temporary use permit. And I don't think we're quite there yet.
Thank you. Councillor Stoner.
Yeah, thank you through the chair. I will support the motion on the floor. I do think that this is an innovative proposal from CAPU to try and maximize not only the use of the buildings that are up there, but really do fill a void in our community in terms of trying to provide some space for things like conferences that we definitely, there's lots of folks who would like to be able to come up here and do that. And there aren't really that many options. I do think that the TUP nature of this is important to me. So we go back way in the time machine, we did waive a bunch of DCC fees for the university at the time, explicitly knowing that this was going to be student housing, and that continues to be the long-term goal. So for me, this is a three-year TUP. Future council will have the opportunity to expend it if that is of interest to them. But the time-limited nature of this to me is what makes it supportable. It's not a rezoning, it's not forever. And it will help hopefully bridge us to a time where we will be able to build more fixed roof accommodation in our community and address some of the growing needs for our tourism and education sectors. Thanks.
Thank you for those comments, and it triggered something for me. I just wanted to double check with staff. Our renewal of a TUP is some are delegated to staff, some automatically come back to council. What's the intent here? I just want to make sure that we understand that.
So through you, Chair, if you want the renewal to be delegated, you need to include that. Oh, sorry. You got it.
I'll clarify. Sorry. Through the land development procedure bylaw changes that we made last year, if council wants the TUP to come back for renewal to council, they need to make that motion, whereas it's automatically delegated otherwise.
Okay, so the new procedure doesn't have a threshold. It just, the renewals are unless otherwise specified.
Correct.
So with that in mind, we've got this issuance here. I'm going to propose an amendment that renewal of this permit come back to council for consideration at the appropriate time. Second by Councillor Stoner. I think it is an important piece that we check in with how things are operating. We've heard some concerns around the table here, and perhaps it's an opportunity to report out on all the good work that's been doing. Perhaps it's not something that ever needs to occur because the student body has got to a point where they can move into the facilities. But I do think it's important that we give council of the day an opportunity to weigh in on this matter at that time, because I think it could be quite impactful, and it may never happen because it might just be this one time. But I do think it's worth council of the day having opportunity to weigh in on this at that point. I don't see any other hands on this, so I'll call the question on the amendment. All in favor? Any opposed? Opposed? Councillor French opposes. The amendment carries. So now we're back to the main motion as amended. And everyone's had an opportunity to speak to both pieces, so I'll call the question. All in favor? And opposed? Councillor Pettingill, Councillor Greenlaw opposed. Motion carries. Thank you. So we'll get, yeah. Okay. So next we have under community services. So 8B1 is the appointment of a community patrol officer. And we do not have a presentation with this. We just have the recommendation here. Moved by Councillor Stoner, second by Councillor French. All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you very much. We have no late agenda items. We have no correspondence action requested, but we do have items referred from the consent agenda. So were both pieces of correspondence? Is that what they were? Two staff reports. Okay. I will go to Councillor Pettingill.
Yeah, just looking for a little bit of context on the curbside collection assessment. I was wondering if this was sort of, because I don't think we.
Are you, sorry, just generally we are unlikely to have the staff available to speak to the item. Are you wondering why it was included in correspondence or something specific about it? Or would you?
Yeah, for this one, I didn't have a question about the content. It's more about why is it here? And so was it meant to, because I don't think we always get every consultant report to staff. And I'm not complaining about seeing it, but just, is this sort of hey, if there's something in here that raises a red flag for you, now's the time to, or, you know, some budget stuff is going to be coming up and this is support for that. And that's why it's here. Just some context of
Was
why.
that your hand, Mr. Stoner? Go ahead.
Bill Stoner, General Manager, Community Development. This is only here because we have an outstanding council motion to bring this before council when it's complete. So we have brought this before council.
Okay, so if we want to discuss it further, we need to refer to a future meeting, or we can move receipt, but that's the context.
Okay, I'll leave that there for now and just move receipt for the moment.
Second by Councillor French. Any comments on this? Yeah, go ahead.
Mayor Herford, I didn't do a deep dive into it, but I gave it about a 75% read, and it's excellent material. As someone who spent a little bit of time working for Kearney's Way Systems and was in that world, there's great info and there's some great recommendations in that report. And I look forward to however it gets used by our district staff in the future.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no other hands for comment, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion carries. And Councillor Pettingill, you're the second. You pulled another item.
Yeah, and this one, I don't know. I did have questions that I think as staff would need to answer. I don't know if I am able to ask them now or just ask them and not expect an answer tonight. Or
why don't you say them out? Take us. We're here. Let's see if we can answer them. Otherwise, we need to refer it to a future meeting. But so
okay. So in the Q2 financials, it speaks about the a reduction in spending in the electrification, or not doing the electrification of the Adventure Center because we had to do an emergency replacement of HVACs. We went with hybrid. And so what I'm reading between the lines is that, or wanting to understand, what is now our timeline for electrification of the Adventure Center? And did we take steps to make sure that timeline is as short as possible? So, you know, things like looking at used units or leasing units so that we could complete the electrification quickly, even if, you know, the actual HVACs we wanted weren't available.
So yeah, this falls into the future meeting category, which is fine. I still think it's useful to understand the category of the question. In that future meeting, I just want to check it. Would we be referring this to this report to a future meeting for discussion, or is it coming to us in like a this is the form that it's coming to us in? Okay. Do you want to?
Thank you. Through the mayor, normally we would have staff present on the variance report and the quarterly major projects update, but given the volume of today's meeting, staff felt it prudent to get the information in front of council and the public. If council would like a presentation, we would ask that you refer this to a future committee of the whole or a future regular meeting.
Okay. I'm going to say that if you have additional questions, the answer is probably the same. So I would suggest we refer it to a future meeting, and we'll figure out where it fits, because it could be it doesn't necessarily need to be at a regular.
So I'll just, as long as Councillor Pettingill's got this open and we're talking about it, informally request that, assuming we do go down the road of asking this to be referred to a committee of the whole meeting, that an update on the pedestrian bridge over the Malcolm Blind Channel be included, as that's not in the key projects. I suspect it's probably because it's a developer-led initiative, but I think that an update of some kind, even if it's just a sentence, is warranted when we get to that point.
Okay, so we want to refer this to a future meeting for discussion is where I think we're going. So Councillor Pettingill, you're moving that. Councillor French is seconding that. I know we're going to be talking a lot. We're going to run into things adjacent to this as we continue the budget process, but I think that the more clarity we have and can provide to the community, the better. So I'm happy to support. Is there any other comments anyone else wants to make on this before we do that? Go ahead.
Yeah, and just for clarity, I mean, if we want to have a discussion about the whole Q2 report, we can. My interest is I did go through it all. It's that one particular piece. And so I would be okay with a shorter focused bit on that piece. But if there's a few things and people want to dig in the whole thing, sort of leave it to you. But just for clarity.
I would like to, yes, I would like to clarify that, sorry, I sort of prompted this, which was that we're referring that report. Do you want to refer that section of that report with the additional topic? Like, I think we need to flush this out. Otherwise, staff's going to be prepared to speak to the whole thing, and we might muster everyone here and only require two folks. So I want to make sure we get this right. Go ahead.
So maybe I'll retry that, move that discussion about the Adventure Center electrification and the pedestrian bridge come back to a future meeting.
Okay. We'll call that moved and seconded. The inclusion of the pedestrian bridge is a bit odd to me because it's not our project, so I don't think it lives quite here. But I do think getting an update on that seems like a reasonable thing. So, but it's a different category of things than this. But
yeah, just a slight response to that. Neither is the debris flow barrier, so it was interesting to see it here. There's this difference to me. It's similar to the pedestrian bridge. I'm here nor there, really on that though. If we're bringing stuff back, I would like to understand more deeply the Honiak Park Sea Dike project. The one phrase in the key projects update was that the contract price for that doesn't include contingency. And I want to be clear that I assume we do, but I want to understand where that contingency is, so that when we think about our funding going forward, we can estimate the risk ourselves. Thanks.
Okay, so for that, we've heard the two items that were included here originally. So I think I'd get you to propose an amendment.
So I'd like to propose an amendment that the Honiak Park Sea Dike construction be added to the list of projects in that conversation.
Seconded by Councillor French. Thank you. Any other discussion on this? So this is on the amendment. So we'll vote on the amendment. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. So now the main motion, our list here that we'd like to know some more about. Is there anyone who wants to add anything else? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. Councillor Anderson.
Mayor Herford, I'd like to raise a couple of issues out of the special projects, key projects update. In fact, it's on one particular theme, and that is archaeological assessment. I'll be brief, and it's just making a comment. We have three references to archaeological assessment here. Of course, there's the major project being undertaken by the planning department, the Squamish Archaeological Resource Management Integration. That is an archaeological overview assessment for the district. We also have reference to an archaeological assessment for the park at No Name Road. And we have another reference to a archaeological impact assessment being needed for the Squamish Adventure Center building upgrade. During the UBCM convention and various conversations and venues, there was a lot of discussion about archaeological assessment, its costs, not only for industry, mining came up, but also municipalities, and the need for the Heritage Conservation Act Transformation Project, in fact, is intensively under discussion, specifically around this. What we need here is better targeting of archaeological impact assessments. And there's two good examples here. The No Name Road Park, the river blasted through there as recently as 1924. And that fundamental fact any professional archaeologist has to say, look, folks, this is what happened here. This is not a place where we would target an archaeological impact assessment because this was a farm and the farm's gone, it got swept down the river, and anything else that was there. That's a fact. The other item in the Adventure Center, for those of us who lived here and saw the Adventure Center, knew it was there before, we've got a highway, Loggers Lane, and another road that went through where the Adventure Center is. That was River Road. In 2004-5, the entire vicinity was dug up with excavators deeply. It is not a place where you would launch an archaeological impact assessment without a really clear understanding of those site issues. And so the discussions in Victoria were around, look, we need better resourcing for archaeological overview assessment and better information resource hubs, if you like, to guide the profession. And we also need more professionals. But this is costly for us, or can be. And we do have examples where we face real severe costs due to archaeological impact assessment. We want to make sure that they're well targeted. I'm skeptical that the Adventure Center is a well-targeted site for an archaeological impact assessment. Hopefully the professionals involved will assess this appropriately. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. So we've referred that specific pieces of that report to a future meeting. We'll move on now with our agenda. We had no business arising from minutes. Any notice of motion, council? So open question period, clarification related to agenda items from anybody in the audience today? No takers. Councillor staff announcements. Go ahead.
Thanks, Mayor Herford. Most of us were in attendance at the Union of BC Municipalities Convention in Victoria a couple of weeks ago. I, on my own blog, and wrote a summary of my experience there. I invite you to check it out if it's of interest, johnfrench.ca, and you click on the blogs. I just basically highlighted the sessions that I attended and some of the things that I got out of it. While I was there, I attended the Municipal Insurance Association of BC Risk Management, Municipal Insurance Association of BC annual general meeting. It's one of my appointments here on council. And every year when they hold this, they, to try and encourage attendance, offer 3 door prizes. Risk management grants worth $1,000, $2,500, and $5,000. Happy to announce that I won door prize number 3 and got for the District of Squamish a $1,000 risk management grant, which I am giving to our CFO to cash in and save Squamish taxpayers a few bucks.
Good job. That's a quality participation prize, isn't it? Any other comment? Any others? Go ahead, Councillor Anderson.
Well, Councillor Greenlaw earlier this evening was kind of wanting me to go down memory lane. And here I am going to take you down memory lane. 1961, year my family came to Squamish. And at that very time when we were moving in, the Baldwin and Cooper team were climbing the Grand Wall of the Chief. For the first time anybody had ever done that. And so we had a gathering on Sunday to inaugurate the Baldwin Cooper Park. It is an initiative of the Highline at Garibaldi Springs Strata, the British Columbia Mountain Clubs Foundation, and the British Columbia Mountaineering Club, who are the main sponsors. And we had a gathering, about 50 people from all over Western North America as far as Arizona, including members of both the Baldwin and the Cooper family. Now, to top it all off, we discussed the people that were still here and the way that the community embraced these 2 young fellows, bought their boots, sponsored their meals, got rope for them, and took them to the blacksmith shop. But another thing that happened is that Mr. Vic Herford, our mayor's grandfather, bought a telescope. And he took it out to the highway so that the whole community could enjoy watching Mr. Baldwin and Mr. Cooper climb the Chief. And there's lots of photos of this, and film indeed as well. And this telescope has been preserved and was brought out on Sunday. And who turns up but people who remember looking through that telescope, including Jim Baldwin's niece. And she really enjoyed that opportunity, going down memory lane, looking through the Herford telescope at the Squamish Chief from the new park just off of Dowwood Drive in the Garibaldi Springs Strata. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that story. That's lovely. Any other announcements? Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I'll just pick up on Councillor French's comments around UBCM. I am grateful to those across the province who continue to put their trust in me, and I was acclaimed as first vice president for the organization for the year come, so there's lots of work to do. I do want to just also recognize, so there was almost 50 hours of programming through the convention. There was a lot of opportunity to learn and engage on a number of different topics. Us as a council, I think we had 5 formal meetings with ministers and parliamentary secretaries across different portfolios, so lots of advocacy, as well as informal meetings and cabinet town halls that happened with ministers. As a result of some of the engagement that was happening during UBCM, the province has since extended their review for the Heritage Conservation Act to November 14th. And the UBCM is actually working in alongside the province to improve their engagement strategies. So if anybody continues to be interested in that work, definitely continue to follow UBCM on that. Also, a lot of the content from the convention is actually available online free of charge through UBCM's YouTube station. So if you just Google UBCM YouTube, there's a lot of the convention content is there. I'd like to draw people's attention to one session in particular, which is on the Cowichan Tribes decision and its implications for local government. It was an amazing panel. David Rosenberg, who is a lawyer who represented Cowichan Tribes, was on the panel along with Reese Harding, who is a local government lawyer, and Robin Junger, who does both local government law as well as private law, really trying to distill what the implications of that court decision are for local governments and trying to put it into context. And I think it's well worth everybody's time. I'm happy to send the link around if folks haven't seen it yet. Outside of UBCM, last Friday was the How Sound Community Forum. It was nice to be on Bowen Island and welcomed by that community. In their new community center, which is really, really lovely. It's their first municipal building that they have on Bowen Island. It has a 100-seat theater in it, fitness space, their municipal offices, and is this beautiful building that's right next door to their elementary school. So if you're ever on Bowen Island, go check it out. And thanks to the folks on Bowen for hosting us and for the Howe Sound Biosphere Region Initiative for continuing to convene all of the folks from around the sound to protect the jewel that Howe Sound is. And finally, I do just want to highlight and give thanks to Councillors Pettingill, Councillors Greenlaw, and Christine McLeod, who has been helping, and Jenny Franks, who's been helping us stand up Squamish Youth Council this year, and Julie in the early days for all the help on navigating the back ends processes. We have our first meeting tomorrow night with 18 youth, which will be our largest cohort as of yet. We had over 30 folks apply this year, which is both very exciting. There's a lot of eagerness, and it was also really hard decision making. But we look forward to welcoming 18 folks to Youth Council this year.
Go ahead, Councillor Pettingill.
Yeah, thanks. I just want to pile on the UBCM, partly to thank my colleague, Councillor Stoner, who had a major role in planning the conference. I really value the resolutions sessions and look forward to them every year. This is the first year I was unable to attend any of them because I was in minister meetings, either through the district, the Squamish-Lillooet Regional District, or the Lower Mainland Local Government Association, and resolutions that were important to Squamish were discussed at all levels. I think at the LMLGA, for example, support for industrial land planning was a Squamish-based resolution that was brought forward to the minister. Just a bit of reflection on the conference. You know, I think we hear a lot from our community about things that we could do better. I think we all ran and are sitting in these seats because we saw opportunity to do better. But at UBCM, you know, I realize we are really quite fortunate. Although we recognize things we could do better, we're quite fortunate compared to a lot of BC. And it did feel strange at times, some of the things we're asking from ministers and knowing, well, the ministers are going to hear from other communities that are facing much more challenging situations. And so it's a bit of, I don't know, I guess a split mind thing, where on the one hand, I'm still pushing as hard as I can for Squamish, but also recognizing like, we are very fortunate where we are, and I'm thankful for that. The other thing I'll just want to highlight, and I assume the mayor may add on this as well, we had Truth and Reconciliation Day on Tuesday. I was able to help with the sound, which meant I was able to watch as the parade came down Cleveland, and just the mass of orange that flooded into Junction Park was really quite awe-inspiring. It was, I think, must have been the largest attendance yet. And so it was just so great to see the community come out and support that and hear the story. Saw a lot of our staff as well out supporting and listening. And it was as always, it's a challenging day, but a really good day to have been in attendance. So thank you to everyone that was a part of that.
So for my, as others have said, the UBCM conference was a big part of what's happened since we were last here for a regular meeting and opportunity to do this update. I was involved in all of the minister meetings, and it was great to I think we were well received with every ask. And of course, similar to folks that come and present in this room, you've got a small amount of time to ask to plead your case, and you know, I think we'd all like to just resolve an issue when that happens. And with these minister meetings, they're very short, so it's a lot of prep to be ready for it. And really the most success there, besides hopefully leaving with a gigantic check, which Councillor French got as close as any of us did to something like that with with that prize that he shared here, but you know, is securing a next step and ensuring the conversations continue. And I look forward to being able to report out some, hopefully some victories come from those continued conversations. So advancing the cause for our causes here on behalf of the District of Squamish was a big part of it. I also attended meetings with ministers on behalf of the Squamish Regional District and my role there, as well as with the Premier, along with the mayors of the Sea to Sky Corridor and the chair of the SLRD, Jen Ford, along with representatives from the nation, to have a discussion with the Premier and the Minister of Transportation regarding regional transit. There was a commitment made in that meeting that the province would continue to investigate implementing both striking a transit commission, which the governance is needed for something like this, and to continue exploring the motor fuel tax as a funding mechanism for that work. So that work is ongoing. There was no the commitment is to continue advancing that work, but there's not a date when we'll be able to walk out of here and take a bus to Vancouver to see a show. However, I do think it was an important step towards that, and I hope to be able to share some more solid news on that in the days, weeks, months ahead. Also, the work for the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, it was a really remarkable day. It was as I was walking towards the group, folks were getting ready to march down Cleveland, and it was dark and cold and windy, and as soon as the drumming started, the clouds parted, and for the whole time we marched down Cleveland, it was in glorious sunshine. And I kid you not, the moment I stepped off Cleveland Avenue onto the sidewalk at the park at the conclusion, the sun slipped back behind the cloud. And I think it really was sort of captured the essence of the day. It was both very well put together by the Squamish Nation, very generous to share full ceremony with the community, and the truths there are hard, and we need to shine a light into those dark corners of our history, so we can move forward in a good way. And was happy to be called to as a witness for the ceremony and to share what I witnessed there, both after sort of at the conclusion of the ceremony and here with all of you, is I witnessed a generosity and a kindness of some very generous and resilient people, and done in a way that somehow incorporates humor into the hardest and darkest pieces of the day. So I really hold my hands up to the Squamish Nation organizers and the nation more broadly for their generosity and work in this area, and for and I'm humbled to be have been included in that process. And after the ceremony, the organizers expressed to me their gratitude to the district staff that have been so accommodating and facilitating of the event, and they passed on a token of that appreciation with a sort of a beaded feather and a blanket, which I passed to our staff. So I thought it was a great gesture and was very, very thoughtful. So that was a big day, and yeah, I think probably have lots to say about lots of other things, but I'll leave it there for now. Anything I missed, I'll include in a future update. Any other updates here, or we can we have no, if not, we do not have motion to close. We don't have any, or we've done councilings. We have no in-camera announcements, so I was looking for a motion to terminate. Councillor Stoner, second by Councillor Hamilton, all in favor, motion carries. But council, don't go too far. We have to resume our meeting. We did not get through the entirety of our agenda earlier today, so stick around. We will resume in the closed, however. So we'll take a recess for however long it takes to be ready to do that, which should be about 10-15 minutes max. Thank you.